Greetings and welcome to The Thirsty Mage, the podcast that talks the talk but also walks the walk when it comes to bringing a community together to enjoy an RPG. Welcome to the podcast. I'm David Lloyd, and this episode is part one of a multi-part series where our Discord community joins us on a playthrough of Dragon Quest III HD2D. The turnout has been incredible. We've got about 12 people, I believe, playing at a pace of about 30 minutes a night. And yeah, it's been a blast so far, sharing our experiences as we play through this incredible game. We're providing pointers, pointing out secrets, and helping each other rid the world of the archfiend Baramos, or however you pronounce that, Baramos. Many of us are chatting daily in the Discord channel, but every few weeks we're going to be doing. We're all going to participate in a podcast episode. This one being the first, where we will discuss our impressions and talk about the details of the game so far. So anyone who's spoiler, allergic, we're only going to be talking about the first 5 hours of the game, give or take, which is, from the introduction and the little cutscene with the goddess there up until the village of Asham. So we'll be talking about some fun things there, and that'll be where we round out the episode. So as long as you played the first 5 hours, you should be good. And so joining us this evening from our Discord community, probably our longest reigning supporter and fellow Falcom fanatic, it's Rich.
Hey, good evening.
Good evening. Yeah, we're, got the Falcom people. We have to stick together. I know there's another. I think a lot of our Discord community at this point is drifted towards us because of the Trail series. So, it's Estelle Bright bringing us all together. It's just the way of the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Another longtime Discord supporter and our resident health and fitness guru. It's Will.
Hey, David. Long time listener, first time podcaster. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. It's funny. We've been talking. It's been years, I think, that we've had the Discord running and chatting. So it's funny to go from all text viewing, and now we actually can hear each other's. Well, I guess you've heard my voice for too long, but now I get to hear everyone else's voice, so it's pretty neat. And a recent new friend to our Discord community, another Falcom fan that found his way to us. It's Chris.
I did, and now you're playing my favorite series in Dragon Quest, so happy to join.
It's all coming up exactly as planned, Chris, I guess. We got the Falcom, and I know we coming up in February too. We got the next Legendary Heroes, the Daybreak 2. So it's just one banger after another.
They keep releasing
and speaking
those.
of bangers, yeah, I know. Hopefully, I'm still looking. We got this, and then we got more Dragon Quest down the line this year too. I actually didn't realize it was 1 and 2 were going to be released in 2025. So lots to look forward to. And lastly, we have my wrestling watching buddy and the originator of the ongoing inside joke that has become Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition. It's Daniel.
Say his name and he appears. Say his name in Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition.
Yeah, that's right. And here you are, your first. You probably thought your first time on our episode would be to defend Final Fantasy 15, but
I mean, that would be nice.
Yeah, I have the
WrestleQuest.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I actually had that on my wish list, and haven't picked it up yet, but maybe one day. But the Australian government will be happy that we have a fellow countryman. As been predetermined by their statutory laws, we need at least one per episode. No more than one, but no less.
Can't have the Australian streams cross.
Yeah, that's right. Well, half the time my computer thinks I'm in Australia because my VPN needs to borrow your very lucrative streams that seem to allow to be in your country, but not in mine. So until I broke my Netflix and got it stuck in the Australian country somehow, I actually had to create a whole new profile. Even Netflix doesn't know how it worked, but I don't know.
Did you have to turn your TV upside down?
I don't know. They told me I'd have to take a drive to get it fixed, and that wasn't happening. So
You got to check the
Wow.
toilet's still spinning in the right direction when you flush as well.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, I guess the episode that we're talking about tonight is on Dragon Quest III. So this is originally a 1988 game developed by Chunsoft, published by Enix. Third installment in the series, which is technically the first in the storyline, though, a prequel, if you will. And I know there's been a couple other editions. I know there was a remake on Super Famicom in '96, and I actually recently played part of the Game Boy Color port that came out in 2001. It's I've been finding that this one has been pretty faithful, actually, which is kind of funny. I guess that's kind of Dragon Quest in a nutshell, though, is faithful to tradition. So I think to start off the episode, the most appropriate thing to do, I guess, would be to go around and ask everyone about their history with the franchise and kind of see how they're enjoying things so far. So let's start with Rich. We'll start with Rich. So in your timeline of Dragon Quest, what's this for you, and how are you enjoying this one so far?
Sure. Well, so this is the first Dragon Quest I've ever played. It's never really been on my radar at all. Um, in the great battle between Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy, I was always on Team Final Fantasy. Uh, but
Same with me.
but yeah, 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 yeah. But yeah, nice to be trying out something new and finding out what this is all about. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I'm.
been.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, it's funny, like, as we've talked over the years, our histories together of like the games we play are very similar. I know we
Yeah.
played a lot of the same games, like they said with Final Fantasy and Trails games and that sort of thing. And yeah, growing up, I was the same way. I was playing all the Final Fantasies and never really got into Dragon Quest. I think because I played Dragon Warrior on NES and had absolutely no idea what to do, it kind of just turned me off the franchise for many years.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, and then I didn't have a Super Nintendo, and then I didn't even have a PlayStation for the longest time. So I missed a lot of the games in between, and even now I've been looking back at the NES. I've been looking at some NES cartridges at the retro game store, and they're wanting like $200-300 for these
Oof,
original 2, 3, and 4 on NES, and I'm like, no thanks.
oof. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's good. It's a lot of fun. I'm kind of surprised how different it is from Final Fantasy. For some reason, I don't know. I guess that's just my idea of what an old school RPG is those early Final Fantasy games. So to see that they actually kind of worked a little bit differently in some ways in this other franchise has been pretty interesting.
Hmm. And Will, how about you? How's what number of Dragon Quest is this for you?
I'm not sure. It's fairly low in the single digits. My first Dragon Quest though, I'm old enough that I was subscribed to the Nintendo Fun Club News back in the late 1980s, and when they wanted to convert that over to a full-blown magazine that would be known as Nintendo Power, one of the things that they offered new subscribers was a shiny new copy of a game called Dragon Warrior. Um, so that was Dragon Quest in the West, and I started off with the first Dragon Quest. I don't think I ever beat it, but I didn't play another one until the early 2000s when I had been a big fan of Final Fantasy X, and then I was really excited about 12, and Dragon Quest 8 had a demo for Final Fantasy 12 included on a second disc, and I picked that up just more or less for the Final Fantasy 12 demo. And Dragon Quest 8 to this day is still one of my favorite JRPGs. Just a great sense of humor. I played 12 and I played a bit of 9. I'm a fairly casual fan, but this one has really just come at the right time. Where playing it with the group through the Discord and the mage and everything like that, and it has this really nice nostalgic feel. It's winter here in the northern hemisphere, and it's very bright and colorful, and it's just been very soothing, very traditional, very comfort food gaming to start off the year during a bit of a cold snap. So I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's funny. The first main section, the parts that we're talking about are all in like foresty areas, but right after that we get into a desert area that we're not going to spoil. But it's funny, like you said, very very much winter up here in the north. So yeah, it's fun to play a game that's kind of the opposite. So yeah, I kind of I'm the same with you. Like I'm old enough that I grew up with an NES. I did not. I was a subscriber to Nintendo Power, but I didn't get in early enough to get a free Dragon Warrior cartridge. I had to. I don't. I would. I guess I would have at that point got it as a gift from somebody or rented it from Blockbuster back in the day.
Sure.
Yeah, but I actually beat Dragon Warrior is the only Dragon Quest game I've beaten, uh, and it was very recently. It was like a couple years ago, or it might have even been last year. I don't know. Time has no meaning anymore. But
Well,
um,
it looks like it's time for you to add a second one to that list.
I think I've played them all, but this will be my second one to beat. So yeah, looking forward to it. Chris, how about you? What's your Dragon Quest history?
I got into Dragon Quest on the DS. I finished all of them, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 I had also finished on the PS2, the 9 and 11. And I've always said that it's my favorite game series. But this is the first time that I've played a new Dragon Quest game since being introduced to the Legend of Heroes. So
Oh yeah,
it'll be interesting for me to compare the two because I just love that series so much. And this now Dragon Quest 3, I'm really enjoying. It just feels so comfortable, and it just play the game, listen to something on the radio or podcast, and just fight battles, and it all feels really comfortable and fun, and I've been enjoying it.
yeah. This has definitely been my favorite introduction into a Dragon Quest. Like I've enjoyed them enough, but this is like they've never really hooked me enough to get me to finish them, and that's why I definitely having different vibes this time. This game much less chatty than a Trails game, that's for sure.
Yeah, there
I,
doesn't seem to be nearly as much story in this as
no,
Trails.
yeah, I think you could play like the first hour of Trails and get more dialogue in that hour than probably most of this game. But that's why we play lots of RPGs, though, right? Get a little different experience. But it's neat that you've played so many Dragon Quests, so you'll be our resident expert on this episode. So
Oh boy.
uh, pressure's on. Yeah, and Daniel, why don't you wrap us up with your Dragon Quest history and how you're enjoying this 2D HD?
Sure. So like, I'm probably about the same vintage of age as Will, but I live in Bizarro Land, Australia, where we didn't get any Dragon Quest games until the PlayStation 2 one, I think. So I had no idea of the franchise for years, and it wasn't until I think I got my DS Lite, and then I was just looking for a new game to play with it, and I picked up Rocket Slime, and absolutely fell in love with that. And then just basically, yeah, the same as Chris, I played all the DS ones, the Monsters games, even the DSiWare tactics game made by Intelligent Systems. Just yeah, I think so. I finished all the mainline ones except for 11 because I just keep putting it off for some reason. And it's just since playing it, it's just become one of my favorite RPG series. I just like how simple and just digestible they are.
Yeah, they're definitely they have like that traditional thing. I think like I'm kind of in the same age as you. I think we're all like around 30s, 40s. I think. So it's we've grown up with them and we've seen them and sort of and then just having that traditional, we're kind of used to that kind of way RPGs play from back in the day. Like I know if my kid tried to play it now, I don't know if he'd have the attention span uh, to get through it. He might be thinking about his fortnights skins and getting upset at not building on that battle pass. But yeah, it's I guess one of the things that maybe stands out for this one, and one of the things that has stood out really for the franchise is that Dragon Quest has always had a very distinct look, especially when you consider like the Toriyama sprites and art and that sort of thing. So it's been really interesting watching or seeing how this game has unfolded, and with the incredible details, like just how gorgeous the game looks. I know that was the first thing that stood out to me, especially like there's that first scene where you write in your name, and then the goddess tells you, the kind of gives you a synopsis of what's kind of going on, that you're this hero or whatever. And um which was actually added to the Game Boy Color version of the game. It wasn't in the original version, like the whole discussion at the waterfall there. And then and then when you kind of get released into the world, just like seeing like the foliage, just getting into a village, and just it's funny, it almost starts off like a Pokemon game where your mom's coming to wake you up upstairs, get your stuff on and get out there and quest out there, your little rapscallion. So yeah, it's I guess to me the visuals have been quite a standout. I know, Will, you had been talking. You had mentioned that that's one of the things that you've been doing is going. You just go into a house and kind of look, weed through
Yeah,
the details.
the presentation is absolutely spectacular for the game. Their ability to know exactly kind of how much to push forward and pull back, and say, okay, we're going to lay down this this base of this 3D background. We're going to go this hard on the textures. We're going to do this for the sprite characters, and then we're going to do this many animations, and then we're going to add these effects, whether they're god rays or wind effects or particle effects in the air, or like a shimmering due to heat or something like that. And it's this really wonderful layering of kind of the best of different generations, where you're like, yeah, the pixels sprites are sort of this fantastic throwback to the Super Nintendo era, but then they're on these 3D backgrounds with this isometric view, which is very similar to maybe the PS1 era. But then it'll have real time lighting with when you bust out your lantern and you're moving around at night. uh, that's a very modern touch, and these different particle effects, and it's like they're layering, especially for an older guy like me, they're almost layering my personal history with video game graphics on top of each other to create not just a nostalgia from the era of Dragon Quest 3, but kind of plucking from different eras in gaming all together and then handing it to you on this modern platform and saying, like, here's a little bit of everything. And it's comforting in kind of multiple ways, instead of just being, oh yeah, this is like something I played when I was a kid. It's like, this kind of reminds me of being a kid and a teenager and in my 20s. It's really familiar, even though I've never played it before, and it just feels good to look at.
Yeah, I think it's pretty incredible that they've done all that, but then the game still feels very modern. like like it's incredible how they've been able to kind of put meld all of these different generations together, and it still feels like a fresh new experience.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's great.
Chris, as someone who's played so many different Dragon Quest games, like how are you finding the sprite work compared to some of the older ones?
I think it's great. They look fantastic. The colors and textures and everything, it just looks so great. I'm playing on the big TV. I'm so used to playing on the little screen on the DS, or even the 3DS just isn't that big. So it's it's beautiful. It really is.
Hmm. And how about you, Daniel? I know. How are those fireplaces looking on your handheld?
Oh, they're looking amazing, and I think it's just part of it is it's just because it's been 8 years since the Switch was revealed, and we first got shown HD2D, and this is what the 6th game to use that style, and it's just such a, you look at the original Octopath to where we are now, and it's like, yeah, this is what HD2D was sort of made for, and it just, all the detail and work that goes into it, it's just jaw dropping. And I think I was saying in the Discord, it's probably maybe one of the most pretty games I've seen. As someone who only plays on the Switch, which I know you love, David, it's just, it's a good showcase of why a good art style can sort of hide any system flaws. The one that gets me is there's this village, I forget the name of it, but all the rooftops have all grown over with grass, and I was just sitting there just looking at like each individual blade of grass animating on the top of these buildings, and I'm like, there's just so much work's gone into it.
Well, it's funny because I was just finishing up the Octopath. I'm on the final chapter for everyone, playing on the Switch, which I haven't played in a long time. But yeah, like it's funny to see how much improvement they've made since even that game. Like it still has that same sort of charm. Like you still get the same type of development. I know that it's two different developers. Like Octopath was made by Acquire, where this one's made by I don't know how much work. I think it was Conta KK, something like that. Um, they worked alongside Team Asano. Team Asano seems to be the one constant between all these games, which is great. So because when Acquire was purchased by, I guess it was From Software or their parent company, I was very concerned because I was like, no, don't take our 2D to HD wave. Like you can't give us these amazing games and then tell us like, no, I'm sorry, no more. So I'm glad Square Enix has a partner that's still making these, but they kind of takes that same aesthetic, but then it don't, like the colors are just that much brighter and more vibrant than Octopath. That was one of the biggest things I think between comparing the two. So.
Is anybody else playing this on an OLED or similar display that has that sort of color vibrancy?
I am, yeah.
Yeah,
It's staggering.
Yeah. So yeah, Rich, I know I'm pretty sure you're playing on the PS5, I believe, eh?
Yeah. Well, you really need the maximum power available for. Yeah. No, I'm probably less enthusiastic about the look than all the rest of you. I don't have that nostalgia for the 2D sprites. I started gaming in the 3D era, so uh,
Yeah.
I was a little taken aback actually when I saw that it was 2D sprites and this whole HD 2D thing or whatever. I always just kind of ignored because it didn't really seem like it was meant to appeal to me. Um, but it looks well enough. Yeah, I can't complain.
It's funny because the sprites of the actual characters themselves are the one thing that almost seems a little out of place in
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they have that kind of weird look to them.
Well,
Um,
and it would be nice if there were more than like 6 NPC sprites. Uh,
No. This is Dragon Quest. You're getting the same shopkeeper in every town.
Yeah.
okay.
yeah,
Uh,
they
I
had a
mean, you
budget
should.
and they were sticking to it.
Yeah,
yeah.
you should look at because this is the second version of Dragon Quest 3 on Switch. Because the previous one I think was a port of the mobile phone version, and that looks very
Yeah.
rough. It's like very flash animation, sort of look to it.
Yeah, it was kind of like
Okay.
an early mobile type. Like it wasn't even like the mobile games now, or I feel like they've kind of stepped up their game from like the early days because like they look like kind of Java or Flash type based, and it was funny. I remember I think I was still volunteering at NWR when those games came out, and I was trashing the look of those games because I hate mobile games so much, and yeah.
The big thing that gets me about those versions, and it's just a little sort of minor annoyance I have, is that in battle, the animation, the monsters don't animate. And as someone who started with the DS remakes, which have these gorgeous animated sprites, and then to play like those versions of it, I'm like, this just feels so dead and lifeless and doesn't have the character and personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny the battle sequences now I've enjoyed because it still looks like the Game Boy Color version. I'm not sure if the NES was still this way, where you just have like the enemies in front of you, and they have that Toriyama charm to them. But there's even stepped up more in this game. Like I know the wolf, seeing that first wolf and his eye was hanging out of his socket, like threw me back. So I go, oh, man, like that wasn't in the Game Boy Color version. His eyes were in his
Yeah.
head, so it was funny to see that.
They were called
Maybe
like Rotten Weilers or something, weren't they?
Yeah,
I love,
like
I
I
love the
don't know if they're
puns.
like a
I love.
wolf or something.
oh yeah, yeah. Just about every enemy name is a pun. It's
Oh,
great.
Yeah,
because there's no Capsicums in this one. I think they come in later.
yeah, we haven't seen too many varieties in the first 5 hours anyway, because I know there's like the slimes and the crows, and then the wolf type creature, and then there's kind of like a wizardy druid type, I think. Um, oh, it's funny I say that, and then I think, but then you get to the tower, and you get a few different characters there too. So I guess yeah, it's not too bad. Um, I guess the other thing to touch on is because I know Sugiyama is a bonehead and said a lot of hurtful things, but I'm really happy that they went with an orchestral version of the soundtrack in this game. Um, I know, Rich, you had pointed out that some of the tracks are kind of short, so they feel a little repetitive. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but the music itself is it. I noticed like there's so many iconic sound effects like while you're listening to the music, so it just feels like it felt like a lot like playing Dragon Quest 11, really, where you kind of get like a very modern sound to it, but then you still have all that traditional sound effects.
Which again sort of goes back to how Dragon Quest, like, it's a series that doesn't like change. I think a big part of its appeal in Japan is just the nostalgia of it all. So it is just this like cozy blanket for people to just, oh, you can play Dragon Quest. It's not going to be that different to what it was. It might look better, it might play a little bit different, but it's going to have the same sounds, the same feelings, the same look, the same stupid looking blue blob as the first enemy.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things of not really tinkering with the formula too much is that yeah, like you can kind of get into it right away. Like I know, like Chris and Rich will attest to, like with the Trail series, every game there's like an iteration to the combat system where it's like, well, here's the combat you were using, but then here's one more or two more or three more things that drop on top of that, and it got to the point in Reverie where I was just or Trails 2 Reverie, is that the last Cold Steel one where
Mm-hmm.
like I was just overwhelmed. Like I don't even remember, after playing Cold Steel 4, like it was already like when you have so many characters, it was very overwhelming, and then to get in there and they're like, okay, here's every character that you could put, even more characters and even more combat systems on top of that. Whereas with the Dragon Quest, like yeah, you don't really have to, you don't have to go in there and learn these new mechanics. It's just, that it's that familiar, like, here's a new adventure. Like it's just it's new characters and a new thing to do.
It also makes the games perfect to just sort of pick up and play. Like, if you're just playing in a 30-minute session every day, you don't need to just devote hours to it, because it's like, you're not going to forget how it plays the next time you pick it up if you pick it up a week or two later, because it's basically just hitting A to hit.
Mm-hmm.
Will, how are you finding the pace with like the 30 minutes? Are you getting enough out of those times that it feels like you're progressing well?
So because of my schedule, I can't actually block out 30 minutes a day. So I what I end up doing is falling behind and being like, oh no, I'm getting too far behind, and then sitting down for a play session and just being like, I can't stop. Once I get a good, like, a Saturday evening or something like that where I have some time, I find that I will burn 3, 4, 5 hours and kind of balance it between story progression and just grinding. I think it has an extremely stable pacing. The thing that's going to kill your pacing, I think, is what difficulty you might be playing on and how much time you're going to spend grinding. because they don't hold you in any one particular place for terribly long. The dungeons are fairly, reasonably sized. Um, yeah, the only thing with the pacing tends to be is, oh no, I'm getting to the point that we're supposed to play to, and I should stop now. That's
Yeah.
that's my problem with the pacing, because once I get going, I really don't want to put it down.
I've gone past where we should, so I've had to stop playing for a few days just to hopefully everyone can catch back up.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny. It's I was really worried we were going to lose. Like people were going to kind of fall off pretty quick. Especially with games like this. Like after a few hours, some people could just maybe it's not the game for them, or they just get bored of it. But it seems like of the 10 to 12 or so that are in it, everyone seems to be pacing well. No one's fallen too far behind. I think Casey was the furthest one behind of all people at one point, and he's caught up this weekend. So. It's been, I guess it's, we chose a good game because everyone seemed to be enjoying it. So,
I
Well,
think in
I
order to
think
make sure I haven't gone too far ahead, I've just devoted my extra time to grinding. So I'm
There
probably a
you go.
little,
yeah.
yeah, ahead of where I should be in terms of level, but right where I should be with the story. So
I
Chris,
just
how are you
started
finding
playing
the
other.
difficult? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna say I've just started playing other Dragon Quest games.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, okay, maybe I should finish 11 while I'm doing this as well, or get back into Monsters: The Dark Prince.
11 might be a little bit longer than this one, but I'm, I like your enthusiasm in that regard. I love that they allow us to kind of flip back and forth in the difficulty. I love games that do that because it allows you, if you do get to that point, because I don't want to have to grind 3 or 4 hours to get past the boss. So if I haven't really come across it too much early on in this one, but I just know at some point, like these older games, they those moments tend to pop up or whatever. Um, as the game goes on, we'll see. But I really appreciate when a game allows you to drop down to a difficulty for a particular fight just to get through. Especially with, I guess that's one of the things maybe we'll talk about just before we get too far in is with Dragon Quest 3. There's a lot of variety in how you play because there's so many different ways that you can kind of mix and match your party. Chris, like what party did you end up picking, and why did you choose those classes?
I have the hero, martial artist, a mage, and a thief, and they've been good except for I only have the hero as a healer.
Oh, yeah.
So I was hoping the mage would learn some healing skills, but I guess not. It seems to be all offensive magic. So I otherwise I really love the group, and they've been great in the battles because I got a couple people that use magic and then a couple people that just attack. But only having one healer, if my party gets in trouble, then things can start to go downhill quickly.
You sound like me. All offense, a good defense is a strong offense mentality.
Yes.
You don't need healing if you kill your enemy quickly and efficiently.
Any battle that goes long, I'm going to start getting in trouble.
Yeah. Chris hoarding potions like nobody's business. All money dedicated to potion buying. How about you, Rich? I know as a Final Fantasy veteran, you're used to this, paralyzed by choice, especially the first Final Fantasy.
oh yeah, well, let's see. I went with a thief, mage, and a priest. I kind of regret the priest. Feels like a bit of a wasted slot at this point because I haven't really needed much extra healing. And whatever personality my priest ended up with, it's the one that does not scale MP hardly at all.
Oh
So
yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I think all my personalities ended up terrible. I didn't do any research or anything. I just looked at them the first time, and they're all like wimp, coward, idiot, whatever. Great. This is my party. Okay.
Rich is checking every library that you see to get those
I
personality change books.
well, I was gonna ask about that. I had a bunch of them read some books, and their personalities didn't change. So I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something.
There's,
Maybe they have
there's
to.
also items you can equip that will change your personality, so you got to
Mm-hmm.
double check
Mm-hmm.
those as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
Well, I think things change later on in the game too, because I know there's kind of a class upgrade, kind of like the Rat's Tail style in Final Fantasy. I think about the halfway point, I think, in the game, if I remember correctly. So there's always that chance of making a change there too. How about you, Will? What's your party makeup?
Larry, Mo, Curly, and Shemp are actually exactly the same. Mage, priest, and thief with the hero. I think that's the really almost canonical party setup.
Okay. And Daniel, how about you?
So because I mean this is the second time I've played Dragon Quest 3. I finished it on the Game Boy Color, so I wanted because the Monster Wrangler I think it is
Mm-hmm.
new to this version, so I wanted that. So the characters I went hero, Monster Wrangler, a martial artist, and a priest, and their names are Final Fantasy 15 and Pokey Ed. It's just the dumbest thing I could think of, and but yeah, so martial artist was my main go-to class in on the Game Boy Color version, and I know that once they start leveling up, they're absolutely busted. And having because I didn't know anything about the Monster Wrangler, I actually assumed that I'd be able to summon monsters, but then I'm like, oh no, they just sort of learn abilities and stuff. So I've got the Monster Wrangler and the Priest and the Hero all sort of doing healing. I've got no real offensive magic other than what little stuff the Priest gets, but it's working out quite well so far.
Is the Monster Wrangler kind of like I want to say like the Blue Mage or the character from Final Fantasy that just learns the abilities of the enemies?
Not really. It's sort of the abilities they learn are based on how many monsters you've recruited for that monster battling mode. They do learn some other stuff on the side, but it doesn't really seem to be Blue Mage sort of stuff where they learn every monster ability.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because that's I didn't do I tried to go in blind myself, and I went with it was funny. I was gonna go with the warrior. That's I on the GBC version. I went warrior, mage, and priest along with my hero. But then when I started it up, I named the war like the first character I named was Tifa, and then I was gonna hit warrior, and then I'm like, wow, no, like I saw the sprite, and I'm like, I have to go with martial artist, and so I was a little bit worried that the martial artist wouldn't be strong enough, but I was like, nah, I'll go with the martial artist, and then I needed the magic offensive with the mage, so I went with Vivi, and then I went with I needed that healing because I was like I said, I usually play like Chris where I'm like all offense, but I know in the kind of these older games a lot of the time you need that cure at the right moment to finish a battle, so that's why I went with the priest for the final, and that's Yuna. um like, see, Rich, even when I'm playing a Dragon Quest game, there's no escape from the Final Fantasy
Yeah,
influence.
you got to keep it real.
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
think
just have to be who I am.
I think for me, part of it is because again I've played it before, so I know that there's going to be some class changing stuff coming up, and um, the way it works is you do get to keep spells and stuff when you change class. So the whole idea is I get the priest up to the point where I can class change, and then I change them to a mage. So I've got all the good spells from healing, and now I can focus on the offensive stuff and just have this one basic dual character.
Well, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, this is something I love with like my favorite outside of probably Dragon Quest. My favorite RPG series is Etrian Odyssey, and also the same to like the Bravely Default games. Is I like these turn-based games where you can just absolutely break the system and make these super overpowered characters to just like destroy everything.
Yeah, it's a
And
lot of fun.
And this is probably one of the first examples, I guess, of that on a console RPG, thinking about it, because I think it came out before Final Fantasy 3, and Fantasy Star didn't really have anything like that at all.
Yeah, I could look that up over. Because
I
I'm
know
pretty sure. Oh yeah. Final Fantasy 3 I think came out in 1990, so it would have been a couple years before. Yeah, and I guess so. With the way the combat system works, like it's been so long. Even like I've kind of dipped my toes into a few Dragon Quests, but again, nothing too memorable. And it's actually been years, I think, since I've actually tried one. But I know, as someone again, as someone who grew up on Final Fantasy, not having the ability to choose who I'm fighting specifically, like down to the specific enemy, has been weird. Because the way that the characters come up on the screen, you could have like two werewolves and two crows and maybe a frog, and the only you can choose the group that you attack, but you can't actually choose the specific person in that group, which has been a bit different. I don't know how you guys liking that. I think the one thing that I like about it is that it's at least different. It's like a new strategy to think about. So I'm
that's
kind
why
of
you just
looking at it
give
that way.
everyone a boomerang.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
exactly
They
what I
get
did.
everything.
me too.
Everyone gets an edged boomerang.
I'm the only bonehead who seems to have completely missed out on this weapon. I keep
Is it a medal reward?
it is. I have
Yeah.
to go
One
back
of
and
them
buy
is,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
No, I think I have the thorn. My hero has the thorn whip, which will attack everyone in a group, but not the full like assortment of enemies on the screen. The only thing I have for that is my mage has a bang
Mm-hmm.
spell, and that'll do everyone on the screen, but it's not quite as powerful. Like things changed for me when I got sizzle because it's like this very powerful fire attack. But again, it'll attack the group, but not everyone on the screen. But I guess it's still an improvement over anyone who's played the original Final Fantasy on it, like the NES version specifically. There, you choose the characters that you attack, but if you're unlucky enough to have killed the character before all of your people have taken a turn, they'll just slash air, and you won't do any damage for the remainder of the turn.
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah.
I forgot
You
Yeah,
about
just
that.
got a you just got a copy of Final Fantasy 4 Heroes of Light, didn't you, David?
I own one now, but I have
Someone
not
knows
used
where
it
I'm
yet.
going with this.
Oh, that game
Enjoy that
killed me.
combat system, because you don't get a choice of what you're attacking. The game will decide for you. And the same for healing. It'll decide who needs healing the best when you use it. So
Oh,
have fun.
looking forward to that game then.
It's really good. I love it. It's one of my favorite DS games, but yeah.
Yeah.
So the battle system for attacking in this is actually a little better. It's a little more intuitive. Back on some of the other DS games, if your people would just attack the same one, and if it was even down to 5 and you're hitting a like 30, it would still hit that person, whereas in the new Dragon Quest 3, it will go to one of the other characters and kill that has more hit points left. So it's actually a slight improvement on that.
That's good. I've noticed that it seems to be smarter than games like this that I played before, where yeah, like you said, it won't just like do the most powerful attack against the character that's about to die already. So that's been good, especially in a couple of the. I guess the biggest battle or the hardest battle so far in this first 5 hours, for me anyway, it was Robin Hood, not Robin Hood, Robin Hood. Um, yeah, that one was the toughest so far, just because so there's Robin himself and his hilarious cloaked head, and then I believe there's three henchmen that he has, but each one is like their own group. Uh, so that was where I had actually fought them and died once, and then I thought I'll just do one quick level up for everybody and see what happens. But when I did that level up, my mage got bang, and then that completely changed the whole outlook of the fight. Um, So yeah, it was. I don't know. Is everyone finding it's like the battles have been pretty good, I guess, so far. Like nothing extraordinarily hard. I don't think. Eh?
Well, I mean, we all have boomerangs, so
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
You know what works really well on that boss fight, David? A bunch of edged boomerangs.
No, that's true.
I mean,
See, this is what I get for not checking every chest.
I'm trying to remember what spells I had at that. I think I need to look up what the priest has spell-wise, but I'm pretty sure I had a good. Like, one of the things I love about priests in Dragon Quest is you get a lot of good buffs and stuff. So usually, when I start getting into a Dragon Quest game, my battle just usually starts casting all the defensive buffs and then all the attacking buffs, and then start casting debuffs on the enemy, and then slowly start just using my martial artist just to keep punching them in the face until they go down. And it usually works out most of the time for me. I don't think I've had many, especially at that point, I don't think I had any of my party members actually fall down or die or whatever.
Yeah, well, I guess that was one of the things is I found that there's been a few instances where I feel like they pick on one particular character, and I don't know if that was just like the luck of the draw, or if there is like a mechanic where they're like, oh well, that mage has the lowest HP. We'll just like smack them around 4 times and just make David really mad.
It does seem to have a tendency to attack single characters in a given battle, and I don't know if it's designed that way or if it's a consequence of something else in the way that they designed the code. But yeah, I've noticed the same thing where it's like, good God, you're really wailing on Mo.
Yeah.
What did he do to you?
Yeah. Well, it was to the point where a couple times they were like, "Do I have a cursed item on? Like, does poor Vivi like? Is there some kind of cursed item that Vivi picked up that I'm not aware of, or is there like some kind of discrimination against mages in this game? Like, what the hell?"
Just on that cursed item thing, it's so funny when you put your first cursed item on, you're like, wait, what have I done? Have I screwed myself? And you can't get this thing off, and it's like, yeah, it just feels like it messes you up.
I haven't gotten a cursed item yet in the remake that we're playing now, but I did get a cursed item in the Game Boy Color version, and I think it was like the Tiger Claw, which it was like every second step was an enemy, was a random encounter. And I'm like, no, that's I just I turned it off, and I went back to the old save, and I'm like, I'm not going through this. This is ridiculous.
That's past the spoiler point, but that's what I did last night. It's fun.
Yeah.
That sounds fun. That's the word I would use. That sounds appropriate.
It's fun when you have boomerangs.
Yeah.
Everything's fun when you have boomerangs.
Yeah. That's the thing I'm going to take from this episode is that the dumbest thing I did in this game so far is not find a boomerang.
I mean, look, in your defense, I'm sort of semi going through with a guide as well, just because I'd like to play one of these where I get all the mini medals for once, because you just miss them, and some of them are hidden in very annoying spots where you wouldn't realize. So it sort of helped me not miss stuff like that.
Yeah, there's spots that they'll just be in the ground where you'll just go over, like, there's nothing to denote that there'd be anything there, and you'll just get an interaction prompt, and it'll be like, yeah, Shemp checked the ground and he found. It's like, okay, I guess that was lucky.
Do you use the thief ability?
Oh yeah, the thief ability that lets you know how many treasures are in each area.
Yeah, that's a blessing and a curse, I think.
Does it work on those? I thought it only worked on treasure chests.
It works with everything. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But now I kind of feel bad I didn't get a thief. Dang.
Well, now you know what to be when you grow up.
Yeah. This is what happens when you don't do homework before starting a game.
You grow up and become a thief.
Yeah. Yeah, I see. If I had the thief, I wouldn't be missing medals or boomerangs. I'd find them all. Was it one of us that found out that we couldn't name one of our characters Erdrick?
I guess not. It was someone in the Discord mentioned it.
Yeah, someone mentioned that
I read
in the Discord.
that.
Yeah, couldn't believe that. Crazy. I guess Square Enix didn't want people to spoil their own story with misnaming the character. I guess I don't
I
know.
guess so.
Yep. Does anybody have any stories they want to share? Any fun encounters that they came across that they think would be fun to point out?
Maybe not fun, but like that. One of the things I do love with Dragon Quest is, again, it looks very simple and childish and light-hearted. But then some of the mini stories you come across can be some of the darkest stuff you've ever heard. Like there was this one in Dragon Quest IX about a doll, which was just like, holy heck, that's super dark. And in Dragon Quest III, there's this bit. It doesn't tell you to go there, but there's this bit involving like an elf and a human who get married, and then it's like, whoa, okay, those little sort of side stories of what make Dragon Quest for me, I guess, just stuff like that.
Well, yeah, and on that one, if you go into the village after you wake everybody up in that town that was cursed or whatever, and you talk to all the villagers, one of them is a parent of
Yeah,
one who ran away, and yeah,
Oh,
they
that
Don't
was
tell
apparently
her.
don't know.
heartbreaking.
Yeah, you can't tell her. Don't tell her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're just like, oh, you're waiting for your kid to come home. Well, good luck with that. I'm gonna leave.
and because it's sort of implied this place has been asleep and locked in time for a very long time, so it's
Yeah.
just like, again, it just comes across as this really bright, charming, cheery series, and it's like it can catch you off guard, which is just one of the things I really love about it. Or you can have stuff where you walk into a building full of dancers and get a certain exciting experience.
Puff puff.
Yep.
Well, that
Unless you're a female character, then no puff puff.
which is fun. I guess I could see why. But yeah, for that one specifically, when that was one of the first things that happened to me in Asham was, I was like fighting for my life because it was a bit of a difficulty jump when you kind of start getting towards the village. There's some new
For sure.
characters that are there, so I was hurting physically, so I limped into the village, and it was nighttime. And there was a character, she was just standing in front. She's like, "Hey, you want a puff puff?" And I'm like, "Sure, why not?" And then,
And now
And
you're
then-
all healed.
yeah. Well, what's funny was, so
This is a
I
very
was not,
friendly town. I'm not leaving here.
yeah, I was definitely not expecting Tifa to yell at me though on the way in. Like,
But it is slightly on brand for Tifa.
yeah. Well, it was funny. It was like the odds that the one character that I chose was the one that really chirped me when I was going in, like, calling me every name in the book, and then telling me, "Oh, I don't care what you do with your time," and then, but then waiting, they all just sat there and waited. Yeah, and then I went up there, and as soon as she said, "Do you mind if I turn off the light?" I knew things were going to go sideways. I tried to stop her, but it didn't work. I told Casey. It was funny. Casey actually just went with it, and but I said no, I don't want the lights off, but they went off anyway. And then I was not expecting. I could see, but the fact that it was the dad was the thing that kind of
That's
shocked
right.
me.
You got
But,
dad fished.
yeah, so. Yeah, it was so that's my first experience in the town of Asham. So
It's one of the things
That's a heck of an introduction to a town.
yeah,
I'm new in town. Oh, are you? Come with me.
it's like I'm not going to talk to anyone else in this village.
The best town ever.
Yeah. Yeah. Every time I went to the inn to heal, I was a little apprehensive about saying yes. I was like, "What's going to happen to me? Are there locks on these doors? Because I'm not closing my eyes without some kind of assurance." Yeah, and it's I guess that talking about exploration, one of the things that was kind of on my getting annoying with me was just like how far everything was kind of from it, especially when I don't want to go too far ahead and I won't spoil, but one of the next areas is like the pyramid that you go to, and it's quite the jump in difficulty when you're walking around it quite a bit. So I kept finding myself going back to Asham, not because of the puff, but because I needed to be healed. in
Right,
the
right.
pyramid.
It's okay, David.
Yeah.
But
You're among friends. You're safe here.
that walk was getting so long, and thank God the mage has a teleportation spell, and they do not. It does not charge. There's no MP use, like
Yeah.
which was surprising to me because in the GBC it was actually a very punitive MP. Like I had to save, like you get into a fight and you'd be like, well, I have to kill this person, but if I do one more fire spell, I won't be able to get home, and then I'll really be screwed. So I'm very happy that it's you can both use the evacuate spell for 0 MP to get out of the dungeon, and then you can teleport to a village without using MP. So thank you for that gift of assurance of not dying.
There's
The
quite a
fact,
few little quality of life changes like that. There's auto saves. There's 3 different difficulties. We were talking about difficulty earlier. I'm pretty sure that's new to this version.
yeah,
Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong
yeah, it
about
is.
that. You can zoom when you do that teleportation spell. That's always been a thing in Dragon Quest, that if you do that indoors, you will hit your head on the
I
ceiling.
hate that.
It's all
I wish they kept that because it's so funny when you do it inside for the first time.
it
It's like, oh yeah,
it
okay.
almost physically hurts me every time it happens. Like
It's funny the
it's
second
so
time. It's not
upsetting.
funny the first time when you're trying to get out alive and then you get dead because. But
Yeah,
it's
for
funny the
sure.
second time.
But there's a lot of little stuff like that where I think they were really thoughtful about making the remake faithful, but a bit more accessible.
Yeah, and having the maps for every area is just one of those awesome quality of life things. Really
Absolutely.
appreciate.
Yeah.
Oh, the maps are fantastic. I've been playing Bravely Default 2 at the same
Oh
time,
no.
and not having maps in the dungeon is driving me crazy.
Oh god. I love Bravely Default too, but it's just the no maps and the fact the monsters you have to chase. It's just
Would
Yeah.
you rather have no maps, or would you rather have Xenoblade Chronicle 2 maps?
I can't actually remember what the maps are like in that.
You can't remember. Oh, they were bad. They were really
Yeah.
bad.
Are we talking Metroid Prime bad?
Worse.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
Yeah,
worse.
the thing with Xenoblade maps is there was so much verticality to that game, but the maps would not show you. Like they would be like, "Yeah, just go
oh
here," and
no.
then you're like, and then you look up and it's like, on a mountain, and you're like, "Well, how the hell am I supposed to get up the mountain?"
Yeah,
Like,
that's from the other side of the level, but you have to go into the sub level first and cross, but go through the monster's digestive tract and come at its ear.
yeah,
Like, okay.
Shin Megami Tensei 5 is a lot like that too, where it's like, where am I going on the map? It's some building that's not where I am or whatever.
yeah.
This is
And
why I
that's
like
another
True
thing about
Odyssey.
this. I think this game goes really out of its way to just signpost like crazy. Like it's
Oh yeah.
very, very good about
Yes.
telling you where you need to go, what you need to do next. You have an objective when you bring up your map and everything like that. It's
Oh god,
very
yeah.
clear. Whereas Dragon Quest, old Dragon Quest games, they were really obtuse.
Well, even this one, the GBC version, like I had no clue what I was doing. I had to go use like an old school text-based guide or whatever to
Mm-hmm.
figure out like, okay, where am I supposed to go now? Because nobody's telling me anything here. But in this game, like when the first time you talk to the king, and he's like, "Oh, you need to go do this," and then the advisor's like, "Yeah, you should probably go over to Reeve, and look for a thief's key." Like, they're very specific on what you're supposed to be doing, and then they give you the option too for that objective, like if you want it or not. The yellow circle of where to go.
Yeah, they're really good. They'll be like, it's almost like, let me draw you a map. You know what? Just why don't sit down? Here's a muffin. I'll go get it for you. Like they're almost too good about it. It's very, very heavy-handed. But again, I'm appreciating it because I'm really not looking for any level of challenge with this. I just really want to enjoy myself and have
Yeah.
a nice playthrough. And oh
Hmm.
my God, it's scratching that itch in such a lovely way for me. I don't know if I would have responded to the game the same way at a different point in my life, but it's just one of those kind of perfect storm things where you're like, I didn't know this was what I needed right now, but apparently this is it because it's really, really hitting with me.
I think
Mm-hmm.
for me is it's because I mean, like I've always I guess, especially now later in life, I find I do gravitate more to these sorts of very simple turn-based RPGs where it's more about just the combat and the experience, and there's less me getting frustrated that I'm just sitting there trying to click for a cut scene where I'm like, can everyone just shut up now so I can play the game? And this is just playing the game, and it just, yeah.
Yeah, and at this point in my gaming, I don't want to be lost. Either
Yes.
on an overworld or in a dungeon, or just tell me where to go. You can make your dungeon bigger if that makes you feel better, but I just let me go through there and just hack my way through all the enemies.
Yeah, I'm lost in real life. Let me escape and have the illusion of
Yes.
competency for a little while
Yes.
before I go back to the real world.
But the good thing about this is it does give you that hand-holding guidedness, but it's very open. So you can just go do whatever you want, but you're never going to be like, well, what was I doing? Oh, right, I'm over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that
And
elf
all
town
those
is
little-
the perfect example in the first 5 hours. Like, I didn't even do it. I remember it from the first game because I did do it in the GBC version, but I didn't do it in this one.
Mhm.
Well, there's so much
And-
extra stuff to find as well. There's like secret spots where you can usually find monsters hidden for the
Mhm.
monster wrangling stuff, or there's just so much little just stuff to seek out if you want to.
Did
Speaking
anybody
of
do
those,
the gladiator, like the monster gladiator thing?
I'm-
Yeah.
I did tier 1.
Yeah. I did tier 2.
Oh, is that worth it?
I don't know. I got gold.
Did you enjoy yourself?
I got stuff.
Yeah, I can't remember what I got, but it was fun watching them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the battles aren't super engaging, but I don't think they're supposed to be. So
It's
I
just
know
a
I
fun little
found,
side mode to it, I guess.
Yeah. I found. I know I found a slime and I found a cloud. So the two of those are on my team, and then there was a third. I can't remember if it was an Asham or not, but there was a third monster that I found who was like hiding behind. They were like behind a something, and when I walked to them, they ran away, and then somebody came over and like said something to the effect of like, "Oh, well, if you want to catch that one, you have to be sneaky or something." To that, again, giving you that kind of guiding of, oh, if you want this person, you have to do this sort of thing. So, but I haven't actually. The only time I went down there, yeah, it's part of it. Yeah, we've given the crown to the king at this point, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
the only time I was down there was because I had become king of Romeria.
Mhm.
And to continue on with the game, you have to find the king to give your crown, to pass the crown back and move along. Which is kind of funny because again, in the GBC version, I don't think they tell you that you can't continue the game until you give the crown back. I think like you could just be spinning your wheels and not knowing where the king is. So again, another modernization that works out well. Just like you said, like I've got a backlog that grows daily, and if you're not gonna if the game's not gonna respect my time, I'll find another one that does. Damn it,
I don't need you. You need me.
Yeah, I've got all these games over here. They all want to be played.
Yeah, because isn't the king gambling or something in the monster?
I think he's just spectating. I think he just enjoys the arena.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
Not wasting the kingdom's finances that he's embezzled before he gave you the crown.
Yeah. The king is starting up FanDuel in Romeria, filling up those coffers full of gambling money. Has to work off those debts.
Kevin Hart in Dragon Quest commercials soon.
Yes. All right. Well, does anyone have any final thoughts or any final things that they want to mention about the first 5 hours so far?
I just had a good time with it, and I'm really looking forward to continuing it. I really enjoy the pace that everything's moving along at. I like to use that Returning the Crown as an example. I like how snappy that is, where you'll go through a whole story beat where it's like, here's the crown back, now you're the king. Hey everybody, look, it's the new king. New king, go over here, give the crown back, go back on your adventure. That would have been an hour and a half in like a modern JRPG with 45 minutes of cutscenes. You bang that out in 5 minutes, and you're just like, that was cute. I love it. It's great. It's also snappy and quick and breezy. It just feels great.
Yeah. Well, it's funny when you mention that too, because when I was the king, I ran into someone who was like, "Oh, now that you're the king, there's this gardener who's being lazy and not doing their job. Can you go tell them to go do your job?" And I'm like, "No, I'm kind of busy."
No, I'm not going to do my job either.
If the last king didn't do it, I'm not either.
I'm giving this thing back shortly.
You want to talk about games time wasting and all that. Dragon Quest VII, I think, on PlayStation 1, it had like 2 to 3 hours before you actually got into any combat or anything. It's just all prologue stuff.
Oof.
So
yeah, I heard they pulled that out of the handheld remake. Yeah. They just truncated 3 hours off the beginning of the game.
Well, speaking of snappy and quick, I don't think anyone's mentioned the how you can change the battle speed. That's very much appreciated. Yeah.
Oh, the original battle speed is so bad.
It's so bad. I couldn't have made it. I definitely have it turned up to the highest speed, and I would go one more if it were available.
Yeah. If we were stuck at playing at that speed, I would have canceled the whole thing within the first 5 minutes. I'd be like, no, sorry, we picked the wrong game. Let's pick a different one.
The only gripe I've got about combat is that you don't see your characters doing the attacks, which I just think would have been a nice sort of just seeing them jump out and do it. But
I agree too, and I don't know why. Dragon Quest IX was 15 years ago, and the sprites were on the screen.
But was it originally in 3? I think
no,
they
that was the original DS.
Yeah,
but that's what I'm saying. I think they might be using that original first-person kind of dungeon crawler perspective that the original games had as like a thing of tradition. Because again, Dragon Quest is a very, very traditional game. It's about that familiarity, and they're not just trying to. I think that even though they really want other market sales, I think whenever they make a new Dragon Quest, they're like, look, first and foremost, make sure Japan's happy.
Yeah.
We do not want to screw up Dragon Quest for Japan because it's like a national treasure there.
So Dragon Quest IX was originally shown off to be an action RPG and was not received well at all. So they're like, no, okay, let's back up. Let's just go back to being a turn-based thing. So they kind of have tried to mix it up, but again, the core fan base is just like, no. Which is why stuff like Dragon Quest XI had the DS version had both a 3D and a 2D mode in it, I guess, just to sort of appeal to the old school fans.
That makes sense. Well, and I mean, Square Enix has enough licenses that why mess with the one thing that works? It's just like I would say, like, even with something like Final Fantasy 14, it's like when you're making money hand over fist, you don't mess with it. Like, if you want to experiment with other things, there's so many different ways you can go. Like, you can do spin-offs, or you can do back in the day, like games like Octopath and Triangle Strategy would have just been like Final Fantasy spin-offs or something. They have so many opportunities where it's like, don't mess with it if it works at this point.
Well, even stuff that could be Final Fantasy spin-offs, then not make, like, because like Harvestella and Diofield, if you play both of them, they're very Final Fantasy coded. There's lots of, you could have made this like farming Final Fantasy, but at least they were trying to take new chances there. And it's like, but yeah, Dragon Quest, they just leave it as its own thing. It'll sell its 6 million copies or whatever it is.
Well, they do experiment with it plenty too, though. But it's all in the spin-offs. Yeah. It's just the mainline series is really traditional, with the exception of 10 being an MMO. But they have, you were listening, stuff earlier. They've got tactics games, they've got Muso games, they have, everything short of like a kart racer, and they might have that too. I may just not be aware of it.
Chocobo Racing.
Well, Chocobo Racing is not Dragon Quest, though. That's Square, but that's not DQ.
Fortune
but
Street,
they're plenty
board
experimental.
Game Monopoly thing, that's Dragon Quest.
I don't know about that, but
Oh, you talking about
that,
Fortune Street?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was Final Fantasy though. I don't know. If...
Because I think
I
there's a
for God's
slime
sake,
in
you
it.
could almost consider Like a Dragon to be a Dragon Quest spin-off game.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and then I was gonna say with Diofield, could have easily been like you'd stick some Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest characters in there, and you could have called it Tactics. Like like you said, they have a certain look to them or whatever, or certain spirit, and yeah, I don't know. Like to me, it's like you said, Dragon Quest is a cultural icon of Japan at this point. So I wouldn't be messing with it. There's so little room for error with video game companies now. Like you mess up one or two games, then you could be going bankrupt or selling out to Sony. So
Yeah,
who knows?
Microsoft buys you and then closes you down.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. We don't want this for anything Square Enix or. I just hope Square Enix and Falcom and they stay well, I guess Atlas and Sega, that they keep making games because they're in my blood. I don't know who I'd be without.
As long as you're still collecting, David, I don't think that Square Enix or Falcom is going anywhere.
I did just buy 2 packs of Final Fantasy trading cards today, so I'm sure
Thank goodness.
Yeah. Yoshi P can go buy himself dinner tonight.
Yeah, exactly.
It is going to be interesting to see what happens next with Dragon Quest, given that Toriyama's no longer around, Sugiyama, the composer's gone. So,
yeah,
whatever happens with 12 is going to be a bit of a rebuilding, I guess, or new challenge.
Well, you wonder too how much does Hori have his hands on the IP at this point too? Is he just kind of there in a more advisory role, or is he in the mix of it? It sounds like he still enjoys working, so there must be some kind of collaboration there. But it'll be interesting to see what they come up with.
Yeah, if they decide to change it at all, because again, I think that that's one of those series that you could easily hand off to a team that just grew up playing those games and just be like, "Don't change it." And I'd be like, "Okay," and you could keep producing similar quality games for a very long time.
If they
It's
found a
not
young
like
guy to do that with
Fantasy where
Saga
it'd be
games,
radically different.
if they found a young guy to do that with the Saga games, I'm sure they could find someone to do that with the DQ ones too. I don't know what evidence Kawazu has on all the Square Enix executives, but there's multiple skeletons in closets on film somewhere.
Look,
Kawazu
if the
has it
next
all.
one's going to be as good as the Romancing Saga 2 remake, I'm all for it. More of that, please.
It only took Kawazu 40 years to make a fun Saga game. Well, yeah, I think that probably pretty well does it for this episode. So, yeah, we're definitely going to have more. I can't remember how long the game is. I think it's like 20 to 30 hours or so. So we'll probably have a few more of these episodes at least. But yeah, I just know like the whole kind of founding principle of the podcast was playing RPGs with friends is just more fun. So it's great that we've been able to put it into practice and that we've had such a good turnout for this game, and that everyone seems to be enjoying themselves so far. So and we're by the time this comes out, we're probably going to be about 15 hours in or so, and I know at the 10-hour pointer, or I guess officially we're at 5 hours this week, going on to the 7.5 one next week. But yeah, it seems like it's been a real hit. So I'm glad everyone here was able to join me, and like I said, it's nice. We talk so much in the Discord, and it's been probably I think 4 or 5 years now that's been going. So it's been fun to go from chatting via text to having a fun conversation about Dragon Quest.
Well, thank you for having us, David.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Looking forward to the first Trails episode.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's pretty much guaranteed this year that there'll be some kind of Trails RPG Club style game. Worst case, it'll be the remake of Trails in the Sky,
I'm allowed to start on
That's
that one, right? That's the one I can
that's
start on.
No, you
Oh,
can't start
damn
with
it!
that one.
Oh no! Get the flow chart out and see exactly which one I can play.
No, what's that? There's a PSP. There's a Legend of Heroes PSP game that I almost bought, and I'm trying to think of what it is. It's like 1,000 years before the events of
Oh god!
Liberal,
You got to
and
start with Dragon Slayer. That's how you got to do it.
yeah,
It's like someone's gone to them. Ease is so hard to get into because the game's not chronological, and then the Trail series is like, hold my beer.
yeah, that's right.
Ease is easy. Just jump into whatever one you want.
Yeah.
Start the Trails game, which with whatever one you have about 30 characters that you control, and try and keep the story straight.
Yeah, you should start with Cold Steel 4.
Well, it's a good way to be introduced to every possible character you could ever meet in the series.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I started with 3, and then had no clue what was going on the entire time, and but it hooked me enough to go back and play the rest. So
You're like, this is brilliant. I have no idea what's happening.
yeah. I don't know who these people are, but they sure do seem friendly with each other.
And they are talking a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. That Ring guy seems to get into trouble with all the ladies for some reason. I don't know why. But yeah, that's great. So yeah, we'll wrap it up here, and yeah, I guess we'll stay tuned for. Well, I guess I'll also invite anyone who hasn't started. Like I said, we're probably 7 to 10 hours in at this point by the time this episode goes live. But if you want to jump in and get ahead, you're more than welcome to join us on the Discord. I think the easiest way to get to our Discord at this point is probably to go to thethirstymage.com. And there's a link up in the right-hand corner. There's also, I think I might have pinned my the Discord channel in the Blue Sky feed, so you can go there. Especially if you want pictures of fireplaces and the structural integrity reports on whether they're going to burn down the hut that they're in. We've had a good mix in Dragon Quest of safe, pretty fireplaces to full-on fire hazards where I'm concerned for the health and well-being of entire village. But yeah, come join us. And even if you Dragon Quest, if it's not your thing, once we finish this up in a couple months, we'll be on to a new one, I'm sure. So you'll want to be on the ground floor of the vote to get that one in. I'll just let everyone know Dragon Quest 3 won by a nose. Grandia was on the table. And we snuck in Dragon Quest 3, which is good. So I think it's worked out. So everyone shot down my Final Fantasy 8. So what are you gonna do? But I want to thank Will, Rich, Chris, and Daniel for joining me tonight, and looking forward to talking to you guys as we go along. But other than that, I will say goodbye, and we'll see everyone out at the next Thirsty Mage. Bye for now. you.